봉준호 감독님, 예, 끝쪽에 앉아주시고요. 본인 이름이 적혀 있습니다. 봉준호 감독님, 나오미, 네, 그리고 마크, 스티브, 그리고 최 프로듀서님. 자, 그리고 통역은 지난 푸티지 간담회에 이어서 미키17에서 스크립트 번역과 언어 코디네이터로 참여한 최성재님께서 오늘도 함께 해주시겠습니다. 반갑습니다. 네. 자, 나오미 에키님은 한국 첫 방문이세요. 한국에 오신 소감을 포함해서 오늘 와주신 분들께 인사 부탁드립니다.
So Naomi, it's your first time visiting Korea. What is it like being here, and a word of hello to the reporters today?
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. It's my first time in Korea and I've wanted to come here for so long. So to be able to come here with Bong and this movie is a huge honor.
네, 정말 반갑습니다. 자, 그리고 마크 로팔로님 10년 만에 한국에 다시 오셨습니다. 촬영 중이라 지금 사실 굉장히 바쁘신 걸로 알고 있는데 내한을 결정하셨어요. 소감과 함께 인사 좀 부탁드릴까요?
So Mark, it's your first time visiting Korea in 10 years. We know you're incredibly busy shooting your next film, but made the trip. What is it like being here? And a word of hello, please.
Hello, Korea. It's great being back. The last time I was here, I was received so warmly that it made all of my Avengers castmates jealous, especially Robert Downey Jr., which only made me happy because he's never jealous of anybody. Yeah, it's wonderful to be here. I was excited to. I literally finished my movie and took a motorcycle to the my way here, and so and then across the globe. But I'm honored to be here with Bong Joon-ho, who's one of the greatest living directors today, and to be able to have worked with him and this cast, and to be able to premiere the movie here in the home of Bong. So thank you for having me.
네.
안녕하세요. Hello. It's really great to be back here. It's great to be here with these lovely folks, and of course, it's always an honor to work with 감독님. Thank you.
우리 최성재님도 한 달 만에 뵙습니다. 인사 좀 부탁드릴게요.
네, 안녕하세요. 반갑습니다.
자, 그리고 지금부터는
그다음에 마크 러팔로 배우는 사실상 이게 필모그래피에서 첫 악역인데 어떤 모습으로 그 스크린에 보이길 원했고 지금 보여진 모습에 만족하는지 약간 좀 마마보이적인 좀 그런 그 상반된 이미지를 가진 딕테이터, 예, 그 독재자인데 그게 궁금합니다.
네, 감사합니다.
And another question for Mark. Mark, this is your first role playing a villain. What kind of villain did you want to portray on screen? Are you quite happy with your performance? We are seeing quite a different dictator character. He's kind of like a mama boy. So, yeah. Mark, yeah, what was it like playing the villain? And are you happy with your performance?
Well, first of all, I was very surprised when I was asked to do the part, and I read it, and I thought, am I reading the right part? But I'm so grateful that you did think of me, and that you believed in me, even when I was doubting myself along the way. I am. I mean, it's very hard for an actor to be happy with their performance. I look at it and I think it's not done. You know, there's more I would like to do, or I might do things differently. But I think it serves. I am very happy with the way it came out. It's scary because it's not anything I've done before, and I don't. You know, I haven't been reading reviews, so I don't know how it's being received, but. I feel like it serves the film, which is really my most important job as an actor. I feel like.
관객들에게는 되게 선물 같은 역할이 되지 않을까 저는 그렇게 기대를 해봅니다. 자, 그리고
I feel like it was a gift to the audience to see you play a role like that.
Well, thank you.
And also, same question to Naomi and Steven. You know, we're seeing a sort of new side to you through this film. What was it like playing this role, and how do you feel about your performance now?
나오미 first.
What was it like playing this role? It was very freeing. I think Nasha as a character is somebody who is extremely authentic. And it's rare you get to play characters that are just themselves. Usually characters are layered with secrets that they're keeping and hidden emotions, whereas Nasha is she's an open book. And that was really exciting for me to read on the page and then to bring to life. Sorry, what was the other question? Do I like my performance? How do I feel about it? I'm on your line of thought. I actually find it really difficult to. I am always looking at my work and going, oh, that's interesting. I see it all as an experiment. It's trial and error, and you get better every time that you do a project, and you have to self-analyze, and then you go, oh, that's interesting. Here I chose to do this. This time, if I get the opportunity again, I will do this differently. So I am happy, very similar to Mark. I think Nasha serves the story correctly, but it was 2 years ago that we filmed it, and I'm 2 years older and 2 years wiser. So I think if we did it again, it would be maybe a completely different Nasha.
네.
Yeah.
감사합니다. Thank you. 자, 스티븐 연도.
Oh yeah, I actually agree with that. 2 years, it was 2 years ago, and I feel like, yeah, maybe the performance would have changed in another level of awareness. I think for me it was interesting playing Timo because I had just finished Beef, and I was playing with this idea of kind of embracing your shadow in a way. And I think with Timo, what was really interesting is that on the page, when you read it, everybody hates him. And as someone that deeply grew up in a way that is affected by how other people perceive him, it took conscious work to be like, okay, but how do I love this person? And in that way, Timo was fun to try to justify, and I found some loopholes for him. But largely, that was the really fun part of playing Timo. And in terms of my performance, I'll never be satisfied. But I'm satisfied that I think it fits in the totality of Director Bong's vision, and I think that is deeply gratifying to be part of that.
먼저 영화 재밌게 잘 봤고 한국에 오신 걸 진심으로 환영합니다. 감독님과 함께 작업한 소감이 궁금하고, 감독님은 굉장히 그런 철저한 디테일 때문에 봉테일이라는 닉네임을 갖고 계신데, 함께 작업하시면서 감독님의 이런 섬세함과 디테일을 느꼈던 부분이 있으신지 궁금합니다.
네, 감사합니다.
So this is a question for all three actors. First, I really enjoyed the film and welcome to Korea. I would love to know what it was like working with director Bong. In Korea, he has a nickname Bong Tail for the meticulous detail that he shows with his work. And so what was it like working with such a nuanced and delicate, meticulous director? And what was his process like for you guys?
나오미키?
Yeah. Ponytail.
봉준호 플러스 디테일.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I think there is this feeling you have as an actor where I look at directors like they're my parents for a little bit, and children need containment, like they need a safe space and they need boundaries. And I, as an actor, need boundaries to feel safe enough to be able to reach the places that I know the story needs to go. So the Bong Tail-esque nature of Bong's work is extremely. It freed me up in a way that I didn't anticipate. I was nervous at first. I remember you told us how you worked, and then we all looked concerned, and you were like, in 5 days you'll be completely fine. You'll be used to it. And that was the case. And since we finished, I've missed that way of work, because joyfully we work on different projects and different styles. This style for me matched how I like to work perfectly.
감사합니다. 따님이 생기셨는데 자 그렇다면 이번에는 우리 마크 러플러.
Bong is meticulous, but at the same time very supportive of our creative process and discovery. And what was so, I've never worked from a storyboard. I know it's very common in Korea for the filmmaker and the writer, which are both, to do the storyboards. And we would only shoot one panel at a time, which was one camera angle or camera move. And I got the storyboards, and he drew most of the pictures he drew. And so there were little clues about performance in the storyboards that you would never get from just reading a script. And he said to me, "Oh, this," and he's so humble and beautiful. He says, "Oh, don't look at that. That's terrible," or you know, or "Don't look at that. That's just, you know, the." But I really did look at it, and he showed me things about the character through his drawings that I never would have been able to understand any other way, and it was just so immediate. And there were physicalizations of a character, you know, him pulling back the bow. I never would have thought of that. And they were really informative, but at the same time, I was able to play within that space that he meticulously drew and designed. So that he just is a very kind person, someone who's so established and celebrated. To have that kind of kindness and humility is extraordinary. And we could still be friends after this, I hope.
오늘 봉테일을 가장 쑥스러워하는 모습을 계속 보고 계십니다. 스티븐 윤.
Oh, yeah, you know, 감독님, my experience with him changes over time because I think, I guess the same way that, you know, Naomi was saying earlier, I just keep kind of growing in myself, and I think the beauty of director Bong is that he kind of like appreciates and loves the character and the actor as they are in the moment that they are, and the framing is kind of like Naomi said, like kind of the boundaries by which he's providing, but ultimately he like loves you. And I think, you know, hopefully if I get a chance to work with him again, like it will be this gradual evolution of maybe a larger love and appreciation for myself over time, you know, so that I may be able to be more 여유로워 on the frame for him. And I think that's that I think is, you know, something that's really wonderful about his eye. The way that he processes characters and the way that he processes like 매력 and things like that, I think it's really special.
맞아요. 그 시각을 또 관객들이 보게 되는 거죠. 자, 사실 봉테일의 그 순간은 배우분들도 많이 느끼시겠지만 가장 옆에서 많이 보신 분이 최도 프로듀서님이 아닐까라는 생각이 드는데요. 또 완벽한 프로덕션이 준비됐기에 또 배우분들도 이렇게 지금 극찬을 하고 계시는데 이번에 좀 어떻게 달랐나요? 왜냐하면 설국열차, 옥자 모두 작업을 하셨는데 프로듀서님.
So as someone who is, you know, who works so closely with Director Bong, you also get to witness so much of the details that he brings. It must have been, you know, a lot of work to prepare for this production. How different was it compared to Snowpiercer and Okja and the other times you work with Director Bong?
It's pretty much the same. Obviously, this is a bigger film. It's a traditional studio, Warner Brothers. But I was really impressed by his approach. It was exactly the same on all the experiences that I've had. it's just bigger. The budgets are bigger. I remember after Snowpiercer, he said, "Duho, the next one's going to be smaller. That was too big, you know." And then he gave me the script for Okja, and I said, "This is not smaller." And he said, "Sorry, I just got carried away as I was writing the story." And of course, Mickey is a lot bigger than that, but everything is the same. He goes about his process the same way, and I don't think any of the outside factors affected his approach.
뭐 개봉은 안 했지만 시사나 해외 영화제 공개 이후에 국내도 그렇고 특히 그 마크 러팔로 배우가 연기한 캐릭터를 두고 지금 미국의 그 특정 정치인을 모델로 한 거 아니냐 뭐 이런 얘기가 많이 나오고 있는데 직접 연기를 하신 배우님 입장에서는 좀 어떻게 생각하시는지 궁금하고요. 뭐 봉준호 감독님은 22년에 이미 촬영이 끝난 거라고 많이 강조를 하시긴 했는데 배우 입장에서도 좀 뭐 비슷한 면을 좀 느끼셨다든지 개봉 후에는 좀 어떤 반응이 있을 것 같은지 뭐 그런 면 좀 궁금합니다.
네, 감사합니다, 기자님.
So the question is for Mark. The film hasn't been released yet, but it's been screened at festivals and other places. Some of the response for your character has been that Kenneth Marshall reminds people of a particular politician in the U.S. And just curious about your thoughts as the actor who played the role. Of course, Director Bong has emphasized many times that this film was shot in 2022, but what are your thoughts on these comments? Do you notice any similarities, and also any thoughts or predictions on what people would think about your role after the film is released?
Yeah, we talked a lot about where he was and who he was, and we didn't want him to be anyone in particular, and we wanted him to be everyone. He's an archetypal petty dictator. We've seen this kind of leader time and time again over the last century. They're all the same. They're egotistical, they're fragile, they're self-centered, self-serving, and ultimately incredibly fallible. There's purposely a little bit of a lot of different people in him. Even at times his almost accent changes, or the way he speaks changes, because I wanted it to be open-ended. I wanted people, and I welcome people to identify him with leaders that are all over the world today or from the past. And so I don't know how people are going to respond to it. I think it's amazing that there's so many things in the movie that didn't exist in the world but do now because of an oracle kind of moment. I don't know. Sometimes you tap into something in a movie that is in the zeitgeist, that's uncannily reflective of a time period, and we've done that. And I say, like, who knew that God would be as influenced and enjoy movies as much as we do as people? that 3 years later, this movie is now more relevant than it was when we shot it.
네, 안녕하세요.
안녕하세요.
네, 노컷뉴스 최영주 기자라고 합니다.
반갑습니다.
나오미 에키랑 마크 러팔로 배우에게 각각 하나씩 질문 드리고 싶은데요. 먼저 나오미 에키 배우의 경우 이제 역사를 뒤돌아보면 격변의 시기에는 늘 이제 시대를 변화시키는 인물, 뭐 어떻게 보면 저항의 아이콘이라 할 만한 인물이 나왔었고, 미키 17에서는 나샤가 좀 그런 역할을 해주고 있는데요. 나샤가 독재자에 맞서고 미키 17을 지키면서 변화를 이끌 수 있었던 힘의 원천은 어디에 있었다고 생각하면서 연기하셨는지 궁금하고요. 그다음에 마크 러팔로는 이렇게 앞서 말씀하셨다시피 마셜에게는 이제 그동안 역사 속에서 등장했던 독재자들의 여러 모습이 담겨 있는데요. 이게 마크 러팔로 본인은 이제 마셜이라는 독재자의 모습에서 좀 어떤 폭력과 위협을 마주했고 또 이러한 독재와 폭력에 좀 우리는 어떤 식으로 맞서야 한다고 생각을 해보셨을지 궁금합니다.
네, 기자님 고맙습니다.
So, a question for Naomi and Mark. First, for Naomi, throughout history, when there's always been political turmoil and tumultuous situations, they have been figures that brought on change, icons of rebellion. And in Mickey17, Nasha plays that role, fighting against the dictator and also protecting Mickey. Where does that strength come from for Nasha? And for Mark, you have said that Marshall reflects various dictators that we have seen throughout history. What kind of violence did you see in Marshall? And also, in your opinion, how do we fight against the violence that this character represents?
나오미?
I think the best leaders and even the best heroes are the people that aren't seeking glory and aren't seeking power. You find that the leaders who are basing what they're doing on love and compassion to be people who help us evolve over time. When it comes to Nasha and Mickey, I think there's something so charming about the fact that the bigger picture is almost too big for them to comprehend. What their drive is their connection and their day-to-day lives. And I think it goes back to what you said, Bong, about like the ordinary being so extraordinary. Like everyone is capable of making change in their lives, but it doesn't have to be a huge heroic thing. It's like, hey, I love this person and I'm gonna fight for this person, and suddenly that can roll into like a huge avalanche over time. I think that's what's really amazing about this story. It celebrates the ordinary, and I think that's what I think as a global society we should be doing more often. Yeah.
네, 감사합니다. Mark?
It was what was the violence in Marshall? I mean, he's obviously intent on the extreme and ultimate violence of wiping out an entire race, I guess you'd say. You know, that's how these people operate, is through violence. You know, I think of the great sort of social movements and wins throughout time, and probably the most profound are the nonviolent movements of Gandhi or Dr. Martin Luther King in the United States, which is probably the biggest significant political win, certainly in my country's history, and it was without bloodshed. And you know, that's sort of reflected in, I think that's probably the most powerful tool, especially when you're dealing with state violence, which is awesome, overwhelming, and extreme. What do we have but the power of people? And what is at the basis of that power is our love for each other. And I think what Bong is, you know, and Nisha's love for Mickey is a representative of that kind of power. And it's a power that's much bigger than the state, because for every one of them, there's hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of us. And we can't forget that power. And that's how we ultimately win. And the way they make us afraid or they dominate us is through division. And in the end, it's so beautiful because the people aren't looking for the spotlight. We're trying to live our lives and be with our families, and he says the most amazing thing is like, okay, why don't you introverts come and sit in the front? You know, which to me is like, that's what it's all about. It's the people who aren't at the front, aren't here, aren't in the camera and all that. Those are the people who are the most important people, who actually make the change. And I love that line. That killed me. I was like, yes, that's what we need. But it takes time for us because we're, as a group, we're very gentle. We don't want that kind of conflict. We don't want to have to deal with that. So it's very slow to rise up. But once it does, it's awesome and it cannot be beaten. And that's what we see in the film. Ultimately, that structure of violence crumbles.
저 지금 말씀하시는데 마셜인 줄 알았어요.
For a second, I thought you were Marshall, just the passion.
I'm the negative Marshall.
와, 마음에 들었어요, 진짜. 예. 자, 질문 주신 기자님들 진심으로 감사의 말씀 드리겠습니다. 아니 근데 사실 티모 같은 경우는 누구를 뭐 구하려고 하거나 뭐 대의를 갖고 있는 인물이 아니라 혼자 살려고 하는 인물인데 그 원천은 뭡니까?
Oh, so for Timo, you know, he doesn't try to save anyone, doesn't have a bigger sense of justice. He's kind of busy trying to survive on his own. Where does that strength come from, his survivor strength?
Abandonment and trauma. You know, I think he is a very rational, cynical, hyper realist. And that type of skill and mindset might have been born out of difficult situations. And I think, you know, it's funny to have Timo juxtaposed to a Marshall, because I think rationale-wise, they might see similar things and understand similar things, but their intention and motivation is very different. And so for Timo, maybe he isn't operating from a place where he's like, yes, I think this is right. I think he just looks at the situation and goes, this looks like the safest way to go because it looks like the system is moving this way. And I think he just goes where the highest chances of survival are.
네, 감사합니다.
Final words to the Korean audience excitedly waiting for this film.
Please enjoy. It was made with a lot of love and a lot of laughter and a lot of heart, and we're so excited for you to see it.
감사합니다. Mark?
Yeah, welcome to the film. We put a lot of work into it. It's a beautiful representation of Bong's work, and beyond anything, you'll be entertained. You'll laugh, you'll be moved. There's great intrigue in it. It's a great story. There's great visuals. It delivers on everything, and you might find a message in it as well.
스티븐 얀?
Thank you, and I hope you enjoy this film. We had a great time, and it's just really good to have another Bong Joon-ho film out in the world. So I'm glad.
최도 프로듀서님?
I've probably watched the movie as many times as director Bong, or almost as many times as him, and I still see new things in it every time I see the film. So please go see it on the biggest screen possible, and thanks to Stephen and Mark and Naomi for coming out to join this tour in Korea. Thank you.
네, 감사합니다. 최성재님?
모든 아티스트들과 같이 할 수 있어서 너무 행복하고 감사한 시간이었습니다. 많이 봐주세요. 감사합니다.
네, 감사합니다. 여러분, 봉준호 감독의 미키 17은 오는 2월